Welcome to this wee tutorial on perimeter. We are looking at finding the perimeter of shapes at the moment, and in order to find the perimeter of a shape you need to know the distance or the length of each side, because we've already had a look at the fact that the perimeter of a shape is just the distance all the way around. So if you were to start at the top of the shape here and walk down, if you were a wee spider, you would crawl down 12 centimetres here, you would go along the side here 7 centimetres, and then you would go along this side 8 centimetres, and you'd be back to the start. That total distance round the edge is called the perimeter. Now, we don't have squares like a square grid to count, so we've actually got the measured distances. We've assumed that somebody has measured these and they're stated. So when we're working it out, a couple of things I'd like you to do. First of all, I'd like you to actually write down the word perimeter. And one of the reasons why I like you writing down words is it actually helps make a connection in your brain to what we're doing. Okay, so it's not a useless thing, and it's not something you think, oh well, it's quicker if I don't write down the word. I don't really care if it's not quicker. It's only one word, and it helps to really connect the word perimeter with what we're about to do, because it's a word that's perimeter is something that a lot of people get mixed up with. So we write down the word perimeter. A wee equal sign to say is equal to this calculation we're about to do. And even though you might be able to add up these numbers in your head, that's fine. I'm not going to expect you always to write like a column addition. But what I do expect you to do is to explain to me and to other people, how you got it. So what I'll expect to see is the numbers 12, and we're going to add to that 7, and we're going to add to that 8. In other words, you're communicating how you find the perimeter. Now at that point, if you can add these numbers up in your head, great. If you notice 12 and the 8 at the end add up to 20, add the 7 gives me 27, and we check the units. In this case, all the measurements are in centimetres, and therefore we're going to add a little cm afterwards. So the perimeter equals 12 plus 7 plus 8 is not a waste of time. It's you communicating to me and anyone else who reads it, first of all, that that's what we're trying to find, and secondly, it explains that to get the perimeter you add all the numbers together, and at the end we've got equals 27 centimetres. And if you have a ruler or a straight edge and you want to go ahead and maybe underline it, that's great. But I want to see the shape drawn out, and I want to see the calculation underneath. Okay, so for the second one here, it's a four-sided shape. It's actually called a trapezium, but I would expect you to sketch that in on your bit of paper, on your jotter, and you're going to mark in all the different sides so that what you see there is exactly what should be on your work in front of you. We're going to calculate the perimeter, and so what I do first of all is I write down the word perimeter in order to indicate that's what we're working out. Equals. Now, what do we do to find the perimeter? We need to find the distance all the way round the outside. So if we start, doesn't matter where we start, I've got 1.8 and 2.6 and another 4.1 and a 2.6, and therefore I can write them all out. Okay, we're not calculating anything yet, we're simply setting out our work. Now it doesn't matter what order you put them in. Depends where you start. And what you can do is check how many numbers you're adding. There are 4 sides to this shape, so I should have written down 4 numbers to add together, which I have. Now at this point I might not be able to add this up in my head, so one of the things that you can do at this point is to use a little calculation. Okay, it's absolutely fine. So over here I'm going to do 1.8 2.6. We're using decimals, so it's really important that the decimal points are always under each other. So I've got 4 numbers. I'm going to do a little column addition to help me. And so that's me written that out. And what have I got? Down this first column here, I've got 8 and 6 is 14, and 1 is 15, and 6 is 21. So I put down the 1 and carry the 2. Now notice the decimal point goes straight under all the other decimal points when we're adding. I've got my wee carry 2, it's not very clear, and then if I add up from the bottom, 2 and 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8, add 2 is 10, and add 1 is 11. So the answer is 11.1. Now I'm going to feed that into my calculation. That sum there was just to help me get the answer. So I'm going to write that in here, 11.1. What have I got? My units here are in meters, m for meters, so therefore I'm going to put a small m, and that's my answer. The perimeter is 11.1 meters. Okay, so that's how we find the perimeter. I want to just show you one other little situation that occurs when we're dealing with rectangles, because it's quite a common shape to work out the perimeter of. So I'm going to show you two different ways to work it out. You might find one is better than the other. So what we would normally do with a rectangle, you may only be given two sides, and hopefully that you know that that's because rectangles have a special property in that the opposite sides are always the same. So this 9 centimeter line here is going to be the same as this 9 centimeter line here. So we can put 9 centimeters down here, and the 4 centimeters on the right hand side is going to be the same as 4. So we can, if we want, add in the extra numbers, and that means we've got 4 numbers to add together. So the way in which I've been suggesting is we write down perimeter is equal to, well, wherever we start, say we start up here, we can say 9 plus 4, it's the next one, and then plus 9 plus 4, and we can add all those up. 9 and 4 is 13, add 9 is 22, add 4 is 26. Okay, and that's absolutely fine. But you notice that basically the numbers double up. There's 2 9s and there's 2 4s. So one of the other ways that we can do rectangles, because they're kind of special, is we can just think of the two numbers that make up the length and the breadth, and we can say 9 add 4 is 13. And because we're then going to repeat another 9 and 4, we know that the total perimeter is double what we get when we add up the two sides. So there's 9 and 4 is 13. If we add up the other two sides, 9 and 4, we get 13 as well. So what we can actually say, here's another way of doing it, and you might like this or you might not. We could say, or we could say that the perimeter is equal to 9 plus 4 times 2. In other words, once we work out one lot of 9 and 4, our total answer is double it. It's really important that you write it out using your order of operations. In other words, 9 and 4 is 13. We've still got to multiply by 2. And when you can do these calculations in your head, that's actually quite a quick way to work out instead of adding lots of numbers. Okay, so either of those ways is absolutely fine. Let me show you this second one, and I'm only going to do it the second way because you'll know you can add the 4 numbers together. That's not a big deal. But I want to show you the second way just to remind you. We could say the two different sides, the length and the breadth, are 26 and 8 millimeters. So what I could say is the perimeter is 26, add 8. But instead of saying add another 26, add another 8, we can just say whatever that number is, double it, because we've got half of the shape still to add on. So 26 add 8 is 34. We've still got to double it, and the answer is 68. And sometimes, what's it, millimeters? Sorry, that was always check with the diagram. 68 millimeters. So doubling sometimes is quite easy. So you've just got to decide, do I want to add the 4 numbers together, or do I want to add the two different dimensions and then double it? So there's 2 different ways to work out the perimeter of shapes. You go on and try the questions yourself.